When we started Icon, we were kind of the only idiots in the space. The bullshit story was from when media asked when we first launched was, and it's factual, but it's total fabrication. Now, will I just shut up and answer your question? I think it's hideous. When you first started the episode, Greg, you mentioned something that's critical to me.
One thing I learned very quickly when interviewing Jonathan that he has a ton of incredible sound bites that I could pull out of the interview. So that was just a taste of what's to come in this interview with Jonathan Ward of Icon. It was a wonderful interview. I really, really enjoyed it. And between the time that I actually recorded this and today, I had a chance to go to LA for a book event, and I was able to visit his facility, which was really, really cool. He was not there at the time, but I did get some pictures. So if you're watching on YouTube, all the pictures I could share were from the lobby. Everything else in the back was customer cars, so that I was not allowed to take pictures unless it was up close in detail. So you'll see quite a few pictures of their mascot, the lizard, and some other cool things as I was able to take some cool pictures. So just a really enjoyable interview. Check out my sponsors, and we'll have the interview coming up here shortly. If you're a collector, you already understand stewardship, preserving what matters, planning ahead, and passing things on the right way. That's exactly how Peristyle Wealth approaches financial planning. As the Ferrari Club of America's official wealth management partner, they help avid collectors who value resilience and attention to detail. And the founder, John Suarez, is active in the community. I've judged one of his cars before, and I see him at events all over the country. To learn more, go to peristylwealth.com. Peristyle Wealth advisory services offered through New Edge Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor.
Every garage is a mirror of the mind that builds it. The garage becomes a quiet dialogue between who you are and what you craft. A garage is where work becomes meditation and solace, where mechanical truth becomes mental clarity. Some people go to offices, some go to mountains, others go to garages. At Metron Garage, we build for people who do all three. Give us a call to get started.
If you own a collector car, you already know it deserves more than a standard insurance policy. NCM Insurance specializes in agreed value coverage designed specifically for classic collector and enthusiast vehicles. From weekend drivers to serious collectors, they understand how these cars are used, stored, and protected. To learn more about protecting your collector car the right way, visit ncminsurance.com. Coverage built for the cars you care about. Every car in your garage tells a story, where it's been, how it's been maintained, and what makes it truly yours. Carport gives you a simple digital garage to document, organize, and manage your vehicles all in one place. Track service history, store important records, and keep your collection dialed in with confidence. From your daily driver to your dream car, Carport keeps everything in order so you're always ready for the road. And best of all, it's free to use and it's 100% private. To learn more, go to carport.app. Hey, welcome to the Collector Car Podcast. Like always, I'm excited about this guest, but I'm more excited? I don't know. I'm just so thrilled to have Jonathan Ward on. Jonathan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm well, Greg. I'm happy to be here. You've interviewed a lot of my friends and peers, and I guess it's been too long.
Yeah, yeah. So I've been loving your stuff from afar, and whenever I see a icon in person, I just absolutely love it. I love going all over it, looking at the details, looking at all the special bits you put on them, and I just really enjoy the fact that we're finally talking. And I don't want to do the typical questions of that you've probably had a million times, but before we get into my questions, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been up to? Because I noticed on your website you've expanded a little bit. You're doing some really cool things. Just an overall, state of your industry.
Well, it's a crazy year for us because we have so many initiatives rolling forward. I don't know why we're doing them all at the same time, but I think it was one of those things where I already had some ideas cooking in my brain. So, for example, for the Bronco, having built a couple hundred of them, we do small changes over time, refining CAD files, evolving trim, responding to client inquiries for, new perversions of modernity. But one notable thing I wanted to do in response to so many clients, shocking number, being like, what? I just dig the style of the early Broncos. And I honestly, I'm not going to be doing anything more than dirt roads to the favorite hiking or fishing spots. And I don't want it to drive like a truck. So my inside voice is going, well, it is a 2-ton solid axle short wheelbase vehicle. And while we do have a talented team, we are not magicians. So it is going to be truck-like, if not, evolved and
You
more
can only do
refined.
so much.
Yeah, I mean, just it's a architectural challenge. It sort of is what it is. And not to say that our four-wheel drive Broncos aren't like a massive evolution of the original feel and safety. But so anyway, instead of fighting them, I thought, you know what, this actually could be nifty. So we had already developed a wonderful four-wheel independent suspension chassis with rack and pinion steering and other refinements that is distinctly more of a car-like ride. So we had developed that for our 47 to 53 Chevy pickups with Art Morrison. So we actually decided to go for it. So we're going to be coming out, we haven't announced it yet, but coming out soon with a more conservative traditional stance, about literally about 5 inches lower ride height than our existing Bronco, with significant ground clearance, rack and pinion, four-wheel independent. So I'm pretty excited about that. The first proto is active in the shop, should be done soon. Then while we're doing that, talk about cause and effect, and we're like, well, maybe it's time to think about integrating some new ideas for the Bronco chassis that make it even more capable off-road and hopefully also have a slightly more positive impact on the on-road manners. So we're basically drafting the first prototype of a whole bunch of new initiatives related to, like, recently we left Fox Racing and partnered with Riger, which isn't well known in the US, but on the world stage, they're very highly respected. In the US, people know their sister line for two-wheel drive called KW, of course. So Riger now makes icon specific suspension for us. But we're going to add like limiter straps and nitrogen charge down jounce bottom impact. We're exploring working with Curry using the Ford 9-inch architecture, different steering architecture, finally evolving to the current production Mustang GT 50 Coyote, which is kind of a pain in the ass because Ford Racing never tells you all the subtleties that occur. But with our sister brand over at Revology, it makes sense because we're both evolving at the same time. And as always, we've been good friends for years. In fact, he blames me for his bad career decision, leaving his comfy job at Ford to start Revology. And so anyway, he's a great co-conspirator, so we'll help each other through that. We also were doing a four-door version of the Gen 1 Bronco.
Wow.
We're
Wow.
certainly not the first, but all the ones I've seen before are like cut and paste of aftermarket parts, and like they'll do suicide doors or the pairs of front doors, and it's just wrong dimensionally, which I get because it's a real pain in the butt to do properly because you actually want to rescale, take about 10% aft of the what would be in the two door, the B pillar.
Right.
And then you want to build custom doors that are kind of like 5/8 scale with a different hem profile. You want to completely redesign the floor, and we wanted it to be a hardtop for sure because no one's done a hardtop version. So we're doing a carbon fiber roof cap to help optimize weight distribution, and that's currently a body in white here at the shop, and I'm super stoked about it. I
Yeah.
kind of love what we do, so I do talk a bit. But you
No, you
asked,
gave me so much right there.
well, I
So
got
much.
one more.
Yeah,
So
give me one more and then I'll ask.
one more, and probably the most notable, the one I'm most excited about. When we started Icon, we were kind of the only idiots in the space. Everyone was like, wait, you're going to do what, only what, and ask for how much? Like, good luck. Like, literally, in our old industrial multi tenant complex, we discovered that our neighbors had a betting pool on a grease board of which month we were going to tank.
Go out of business.
Now they're all long gone, and we're still here. I should have gotten the whatever the bet levy was, but oh well.
Yeah.
So anyway, now, flash forward 20 plus years, I'd argue the market is somewhat oversaturated with resto mod shops, and many of them really truly inspire me. And we have relationships with many, many, many globally. And it's super cool in one hand to see this subculture really grow and go, and see that customers are actually willing to blow the kind of money it takes to build one correctly. On the less inspiring side of things is the fact that so many of them are basically money grabs from unscrupulous shops that you could literally build the vehicle on Amazon.
Yeah.
And the fit and finish and the owner retention and is just bad. And I think that hurts the entire industry.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to see Darwin is starting to show up, mostly in the form of a weak economy, and several have exited the space. But there's several others that it's just like down to a color code. They'll just copy the latest thing that we dropped. And I guess I shouldn't be butthurt about that, but I am. So
No, you're right. I got
while
to
everyone's busy like undercutting and copying
yeah.
us, like we're just like Icon, but we build in 10 weeks. Dude, Greg, you can't get quality
Yeah.
paint to cure in 10 weeks. So it's just a train wreck. So we just keep pushing forward, evolving, pushing the envelope further. The majority of our vehicles, you can't buy our chassis, you can't buy our trim, you can't buy our knobs, you can't buy our gauges, you can't buy our interior bits. We machine the hell out of everything. I hate plastic. So we're just staying in our lane and still finding the right audience. But while everyone's copying, I've had an idea and I've explored it a little bit in the past. I wanted to revisit the entire recipe. Because at the end of the day, I think without exception, the best resto mods in the world, you kind of have to be in the mood to drive
Hmm.
it. It's
Right.
rowdy as hell. Maybe it's too much horsepower, one could argue.
I totally agree.
It's loud, it's too in your face, it's too low, so I wanted to say, like, at some point, us as pro builders, I think you have to be doing it long enough to divorce yourself from your ego enough to acknowledge that you can never engineer something to the level of a modern OEM high volume platform, which is literally on a generational investment, hundreds of millions. And then you look that that's evolving from decades of growth in that space with that particular model. So that's the new, what we're calling the retro modern series, starting with 72 Chevy pickups, and we're doing C10s, K10s, C20s, K20s. And the idea is we just take a 2025 Silverado with the 5.3 V8, four-wheel drive, ABS, hill hold, all the perversions of modernity. We get rid of some of the problematic, like the DoD issues with that particular platform, and make it the best it can be. And now we're basically rebodying 2025 Chevy pickups with the C generation. And it just freaks your head out because it doesn't behave how it looks. It is a new vehicle experience. And I think the first Restomod, certainly I'm guilty of and able to say, that threatens your modern soulless daily driver. Like literally just go. There's no drama. It idles at 500 RPM. It's got all the bells and whistles and creature comforts, but it's all dressed and hidden. Yeah, so we just announced that last week, and we're doing it as a limited run, and we're almost sold out, so we're stoked.
So how does that that's a touchy thing to do because the few people that have attempted and they're really hack jobs is trying to get the proportions correct based on a different chassis,
Totally.
right?
So yeah, that kills me when I see that, and you and I both could rattle off the list. No, we're even doing them in our known, what we call our derelict style. So like
That's cool.
Literally, it's the original paint on the vehicle. So we're doing absolutely zero dimensional modifications to the body. We're doing custom forged wheels that help correct the track width, but it's minimal.
Hmm.
But the cool thing about American pickups is dimensionally across the board. I mean, Dodge Ram, Ford, and Chevy since the late 1960s, the track widths and the wheelbase are all but identical.
Wow. Yeah.
And the new platforms for efficiency, they fish mouth weld the chassis in the horizontal straight plane about midship. So the actual frame is designed to slide in and out and then get welded up to address the different cab and bed configurations. But track width and everything else was just perfect. And the engine bays are so stupid huge. We're even able to engineer it so it still appears as when you lift the hood, everything is where it would be in the new Chevy Silverado platform. So therefore, all serviceability, the QR codes on every part, and most importantly, in pain in our buttly, the CAN bus architecture is engineered properly so that you can go to the dealer, you can get EEPROM flash updates. The electrical system still believes it's in its native platform. I mean, I killed like the seatbelt gong just because they annoy the piss out of everybody.
Yeah.
And I killed the governor at 98 miles an hour because on a rally, we were keeping up with it was a Porsche rally through the desert and the canyons with, the active suspension control and everything. We were like, they couldn't shake us. Then we hit the open desert and the governor kicked in. So it's like, damn it, I'm going to have to hack that.
Yeah. Now
Yeah,
you
it took
said
a while.
something, two things that are interesting is you mentioned the changes you've recently made based on customer demand. And then you also mentioned launching the original Icon FJ, how people thought you were crazy. So when you launched the initial one, was it kind of like Steve Jobs, with the iPhone? He's like, I'm going to make what people don't know they want. Was it kind of that attitude?
Yeah, and I've kind of been guilty of that mostly throughout my career. I mean, when we started the first brand, TLC, my wife and I, who's still my partner here, and in life, uh, everyone thought we were nuts. Like them old Toyota Jeeps, but why? But personally, having traveled over 50 countries, the most remote locale, the harshest situations, where your vehicle literally is the difference between living or dying, there were always early
Yeah,
FJs.
absolutely.
So no, everything starts with a passion and a certain bug gets up my butt for a particular platform, and I roll forward. So in the beginning, yeah, there was no market, so we had to just go with our gut and pray for the best. Nowadays we've got about 500 vehicles delivered specifically through Icon. TLC is way more. Um, Now we have so much direct feedback, and we don't deal with dealers or distribution, so we have relationships with all our clients, and we'd be absolute idiots not to hear their input. The only input I can address, which is probably the most common one, is why can't you do this for 100 grand or 80 grand or 60 grand? And the what I think is hard for people to understand, and I'm still getting my head around, is the cost of doing business today and running a proper business, paying good living wages with full benefits, 401k, and God forbid trying to run a proper business in Los Angeles.
Hmm.
Shit's expensive. It just is. And especially our one-offs. I mean, I literally try and talk people out of them because even the production icons, starting roughly just under 300 grand, that price point's only possible because we amortize
Hmm.
the engineering over hundreds of vehicles. But yep, is what it is. And it doesn't make sense. Like the scale we'd have to gain to get a notable price reduction just doesn't make sense. It's just not doable.
Right. Right.
And frankly, I'd like cutting corners and whoring out and hiding things. there's plenty of shops doing that, and I'm only good if I'm committed and locked to the founding ethos of what I'm here to do, because no one needs any of this crap.
Right.
So if we're gonna do it, make it something that make it an heirloom, make it functioning sculpture in essence, and put heart and soul in every, like when you first started the episode, Greg, you mentioned something that's critical to me is you crawl around it. You look at all the nuances, you absorb them and you understand them. That's where the beauty is. Like sometimes a client will have a truck for years and they go, "Hey, I dropped my keys and I had to crawl into the truck and I looked up and man, that connector is badass." And like, "Oh, you used the Deutsche Tech Aerospace. You didn't, like our wiring harness is a 5-digit endeavor. There's $600 harnesses on the market that everyone uses, but they suck."
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. At some point, I'm an idiot, but thus far, at least I'm an idiot that is appreciated by funded idiots like me, who like see the value in those details.
Yeah, I pulled a quote from your website and I love it. It's I guess kind of your mantra. It's for real, not for show. Icon creations are not a fashion statement. They are memory makers. Model vehicles have all but lost their unique personality. They are focus group driven based on shareholder profitability and playing it safe. Enough already. That is why we created Icon. So I think that sums up exactly what you just said, right?
Yep. Cheers to that.
Yeah, that's incredible. Now, what's the relationship with Revology? Because I'm a huge Mustang Shelby guy. I got a K code convertible in my garage right now. I met them last week at the Barrett Jackson Columbus sale. What's the relationship there? Because those cars, pretty much are the modern Mustangs, but they look like the old Shelbys with, a lot of cool stuff going on.
So we're actually a trio of companies, and how far that goes, there's a lot of interesting conversations going on, including building a common shared monster facility where we are not relying on any subcontractors and share all the vertical efficiencies. But Revology, Icon, and Singer are now a collective.
I had heard about the Revology and Singer. I didn't know that Icon was a part of that as well. Wow, that's
Yeah,
very
none of
cool.
us like talk about it too much because
Sure.
I don't want it to be sort of misconstrued because we still all have our dedicated teams, leadership. Nothing's changed there. It's just there's a whole new world of possibilities, both from, not going to Pebble and all the overrun bling bling, too much noise, like doing our own curated events, maybe distribution concepts, etc. So we're pretty excited. It's fairly recent news.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. That's very, very cool. Now, I got so many questions for you. So real quick, tell us about your mascot, is it a gecko? Is it a lizard? Tell us how that came about.
So it's a California blue belly lizard. And the real story is many, many years ago when I was still in another career and hating it and transitioning, I made a bet at a USC business class with the professor and another student because there was this new internet thing coming on board. And I was like, I think with this internet situation, if you can control supply, you can now create demand. And they're all like, you're an idiot. No. So basically, it turned into a fairly drunken after class at a bar bet where I was given 2 quarters to drive a trackable market up 30 points.
Hmm.
So I had the time and the money. So it was road trip time. Me and occasionally my wife, but always my old Labrador, Walter, would hit the road in my old 65 F250. And I was just buying up all the good FJ40s, bringing
Mm.
them back, dialing them in, putting them back on the market. I went back to collect on that bet. They said, "Oh, we were joking." I was like, "Oh, well, shit, I wasn't. And I think I'm onto something here." So quit my job, talked my wife into quitting her job. And that was the beginning of our automotive adventures. But at that time, buying an FJ40 out of Granada Hills here in the San Fernando Valley of LA, it was one of those deals where it's like grandpa's house, selling the cars that are in the garage. We're going to clean up the house. We're going to get rid of all this crap. And they were processing this little estate. And on the street next to the trash can was an old fireplace screen. And upon it was this incredibly well sculpted little lizard. And I asked the lady, I said, you throwing that away? Do you mind? She said, yeah, we're throwing it away. So I tin snipped it off and put it same day on the toolbox of my F-250. And over the decades, it's always sort of been like my St. Christopher, right? Like it's always gone with me on every one of my personal vehicles. And then when we started Icon, I'm as a brand geek, I think icons, are important for a brand. So that was already sort of part of my personal story. The bullshit story was from when media asked when we first launched was, and it's factual, but it's total fabrication, which is when you're out on the trail well beyond where everyone else can make it and you're an icon, especially in the Southwest. The California blue belly lizard is still with you on the trail. So they're adaptive, they're ubiquitous, they're just super clever little buggers. So it just fit the brand. So a jeweler buddy of mine lost wax casts those, and we hand patina them and finish them, and they're always on everything we build.
Yeah, I love him. It's so cool. It's such a cool little guy. Does he have a name?
Nope.
Now, one thing else, I didn't realize this. I didn't realize you were involved in the 2007 FJ Cruiser. Do you have a moment to talk about that? Because I've got a 2014 in my garage I've been driving for over 10 years.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so I was I designed and built the first three pre-production fully functioning design study vehicles for Toyota at the request of Akio Toyota in-house, which is pretty nuts. And then it went through the focus groups and all the gears of modern corporate automotive structure. So I think really the only elements that I have a significant part in was the triple wipers and the front grille surround. Otherwise, they turned right once it went to CALTY and did more of a, I don't know, like a PlayStation modern reinterpretation kind of anime, and they're killer. I'm glad Toyota's bringing them back. I never understood why they canned them. And then I had the same opportunity because Jim Farley was on the team at Toyota when I did that job. And then when Jim split and went to run Ford, we had stayed in touch. And I got I don't remember, a text or an email from Jim many years later. And he says, hey, we're going to finally bring back the Bronco. So would you build us like a SEMA mod? And I said, hell yes. In fact, that's a very common, popular request because at the time, Icon only offered the FJ series. So I said, yeah, but I don't want to build the usual SEMA bling bubblegum duct tape. Like, I actually want to fully engineer it and
Now I'm going to
I'll
look
pay
closer at
for it.
SEMA. I'm going to look closer at SEMA this year. Bubblegum duct tape. I'm going to look for it.
Oh, count on it. It's there. Bring a magnet. Um, I wanted to really properly engineer it. So I went back to Jim and said, hell yes, I will. I don't need your money. I'd love CAD support, engineering, collab access, and full archive access. And then around that time, the CEO of Nike had become a client and friend. And we had gone up to display Nike. I don't know if they still do it, but now that Elliot's the new CEO is a wonderful human and an old TLC client. Culturally, I expect he will bring it back. So anyway, they used to do this killer design show at the Beaverton campus once a year. And it was literally defined just cool stuff that their designers loved. And it generally, there were no boundaries. So it'd be automotive, it'd be audiophile, it'd be watches, it'd be furniture, just as like a inspiration for the entire design culture at Nike. And the CEO at the time said, if you ever have a project that'll go from a sketch to tangible physical product in under a year, please let me know because they were experiencing a lot of turnover, which happens at the automotive world very frequently, because especially in design, by the time it made it to market, the designer had no emotional connection with the product. So at Nike, they have this incredible underground bunker that's just has machines that if you called Haas CNCs to buy, they go, yeah, those don't exist. And like literally they have 10 of them in this underground studio. So I said, yeah, we're losing too many guys there because a lot of it is DARPA or conceptual. So if you ever have something, let us know. So shortly after that's when Farley called and greenlit the first Bronco. So I turned right around and called Mark at Nike. And I'm like, well, you asked and I do. So do you want to play? So that's why all our Broncos have the Nike swoosh on the data tag, because Nike helped us like immensely from supplier access to very advanced machining and surface coating.
That was a
So
very wise request, I would say. You're
yeah, and
looking
we
for.
we still work with them, and they still like our YKK Marine rated zippers. If I call YKK, they'd be like, "How many?" Piss off.
Yeah.
If I do it through Nike, it's a sample order is what I need for an entire production year.
Right.
So it's helped. And then years later, I worked for, gosh, about 5 years on the design team for the new Bronco as well.
Now, the first time you saw a 2007 FJ Cruiser in person, what were you most impressed by, and what were you least impressed by?
I was super pissed that the pencil pushers killed our power rear window in the 11th hour to save like 17 bucks. The air buffeting in the vehicle is just absurd without having that flow out the rear, as you probably
I,
want.
I open the window every once in a while, just drive like
And you
that.
know what? I love me suicide doors. If we're talking about a 33 Ford three window or an early Phaeton or basically anything vintage, especially if two door. Suicide second row doors fundamentally make no sense to me. Because if you got someone back there and the front doors are open and the rear doors are open, you're standing there nose to nose with nowhere to go. Like the ingress egress awkwardness is just, I just never got my head around that. I mean, again, if it's on a Lincoln Continental or something, you can make sense of it. But,
Right, right.
or
Yeah,
if they're both SUI on one side, then great, you both have a clear way to go. But
yeah, yeah. It's so funny you say that because I love mine, but the two biggest headaches are the suicide doors, trying to and the back tailgate, the way it opens. If you're trying to load luggage, I can't do it. I have to make sure that's totally clear. Like at the airport, you got to park a certain way.
yeah, you have to like open it before you fully park.
Yeah, and the other thing, first time I grabbed the door handle, that door handle is hollow plastic, and I'm sure you think this way. It's like whatever the client touches. Well, you're like this all the way throughout, but whether they touch it or not, but whatever the client touches must absolutely be the finest quality material because that gives you the impression of rest of the vehicle, right?
Well, like look at Slate. I mean, the entire vehicle is plastic, but that door handle, that's your first handshake, your first engagement with
Right.
the vehicle is metal. And I drove one of those last week. I got to say, I'm quite shockingly impressed at the price point. I think it's pretty. It's exactly what the OEMs need in regards to a true punch in the face to give us back to
Mm.
non-IT riddled temporary complexity and like just fundamentally a clean slate, simple. And I think it's gonna be pretty wild, right? Like maybe too soon for this year, but probably not. It's like when the Bronco came out, when the FJ came out, man, when slates launched, SEMA is just going to be a slate showroom. It's going to bring so much new blood and product into the aftermarket. I think it's going to be remarkable.
Yeah, that is going to be cool. Just talking about that, the customization options on that would be pretty cool. People really
Oh,
go
it's
kind of
endless.
crazy. Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
they're going to even have the template so you can do your own 3D, modeling and printing and all that kind of stuff. So that is going to
Yeah,
be
I,
cool.
I met with their whole team last week, and they even have like a head of collaborations who's lovely. So, like, culturally, they're very inviting, and they're talking about doing a novel level of file sharing for development, which would be great.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, one other question I wanted to ask you is now this could be wrong, but I had interviewed Johnny Lieberman years ago, and somehow it came up that I was just like, I love the icons. I wish there was more of a color palette. But then he said, at least originally, because I see you have many more colors available now, but there was a very strategic reason why you had kind of the matte colors. Is that correct? Can you tell us
Yeah.
about that?
So, okay, so after I did the FJ Cruiser project for Toyota and I saw the direction production was going, I found myself literally in bed at night before I went to sleep, continuing the thought of what if I did this concept without any external involvement? What would I see as the modern form of the FJ40?
Hmm.
And it literally was keeping me up at night. I finally talked my wife into blowing all the money we had made on the Toyota job, sequestered a very small team in a separate section of our old shop, turned up the music, turned off the phone, got it out of my head into CAD, and then physically built. Then it was done. I was quite worried because, again, at that time, like no one was doing this way. And I felt it was going to be very important to get people to stop and understand this is a new approach. So therefore, that gave birth to what we now call our new school design package, which frankly was probably more than 10 years
Mm.
before we launched old school, which got back into more under the radar retro. But new school was purposely, I mean, not in your face, but technical, industrial, machine, like almost mil spec, and that made people stop, and it made it easier for me to digest the and it's sort of the DNA, the theology behind the brand. Also, I hate body shops.
Mm.
And here we are legally not able to internalize body and paint. There's no more permits being given in the region.
Wow.
So I had visited the Disney Hall while it was under construction, had some friends on the architectural firm, and they were giving me a hard hat tour before all the stainless exterior veneers were up. All the basically like super Ligera infrastructure that those attached to was up. And I was checking out the coating on it and I was thinking, damn, this stuff is never going to get cleaned. Microbial, UV, bacterial, crazy temperature swings. Like it's got to be some pretty sexy coating. So I researched it and it turned out Cardinal Coatings, which is one of the America's oldest coatings companies in paint and powder coat, had engineered this specific Teflon polyester hybrid SDIC powder.
Wow.
So I reached out to them and said, hey, have you ever thought, maybe we could do car bodies? And they're like, no, they can't handle the heat of the oven. But our FJ bodies are 5052 H32 5/32. They're literally built by a shipwright. So I'm like, no, ours can. We're good to go. Let's hit the oven. So we piggybacked on the chemical engineering and then developed our own pigments.
Mm.
And yeah, it started with our classic Rocky Mountain Gray. Now, memory check. I think we have 11 proprietary colors, and then we also have the ability to do custom colors for people. And we avoid body shops, and it's literally 10 times the durability of any conventional paints.
Yeah. Yeah. Once he told me the story, it wasn't as detailed as yours. I was like, all right, I got a whole new appreciation for that color or that color palette. Yeah. Now, is there a single component most people never notice that you're especially proud of on any of the builds? Because I know you're doing stuff that maybe other folks aren't. You're to that degree, whether it's a bolt, a knob, or a spring.
Yes, yes, and yes. I mean, I mentioned it before, but yeah, our it's all ends up pretty much hidden. But our electrical system, I mean, it's built by a military aerospace supplier. It runs triple seal connectors. It is robotically crimped and then robotically soldered. We use the highest grade cross-link wires. We use rail car, marine, aerospace connectors. It is like it's laser marked every single circuit. And then in every vehicle, we use these cool things called key ports. So clients will get a conventional set of keys, but then they also get these key
Mm.
ports, which it's lasered into it, the functionality of each key. Plus, they get a work light, and most critically, they get a USB stick that's integrated in the key fob.
Wow.
So now all care and feeding, the entire electrical diagram fully mapped out to more detail than OEMs bother. I don't think they even do that anymore. Um, Care and feeding, break in, a non encrypted spreadsheet of all of our componentry. Should we implode, clients can search out and connect with our vendors directly, all the way through to our proprietary Brembo brakes. That's another thing. The brakes are batshit. I am a huge fan of. Everyone's always focused on horsepower, but you need woe to match your go. So we've been partnering with Brembo for a long time now, and our calipers and rotors are specific to us and specific to each vehicle in our lineup. Even the wheelbase means like between an FJ40 and our six-passenger FJ44, the metering and valving is different. So
Mm.
like our front rotors are like pro football, like batshit Brembos with two-piece hat, vented rotor. I mean, it's just sexy. And then we use some of the new evolution of Hydro Boost instead of vacuum for our masters. And then it's death by a thousand paper cuts. It's just all
Yeah.
that cool stuff that if you know, you know, and you get in there and you look around, um, it's a unique experience because you're not discovering shortcuts and zip ties and corners cut where the builder didn't think the client would care or notice. You keep peeling back layers of the onion and seeing more evidence of care and quality and give a damn.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I could talk to you forever. I do have three more questions. Are you up for three more questions?
Sure.
Okay. So I love the fact that you're not about just car design or sport ute design. I've watched like you on Leno's where you're talking about, I think you had like a leather something or other you made by yourself. You had like this incredible watch you made. So between like industrial design, architecture, aviation, where do your best ideas come from?
Yes. Meaning
All the above.
to me, you don't go to art center or CCS. You don't go to a design school because you're like, gee, I want to figure out how to be a designer. Like you're either born that goober who is inspired by everything you see and maybe a little OCD of like that's crooked and you have to fix it before you can move on with your life and be happy. But it's just nuance and textures and materials and innovation. Having not any degrees or any proper training. I constantly, in fact, I'm enrolled in two classes right now, continuing my education. But I've been a serial craftsman my entire life. And I think not knowing any better because I didn't have blinders put on me so I'd comply in corporate silos of design, that's turned into my secret power. So I'll be in an elevator in a cool building and checking out the stainless surfacing on the elevator, and I'll go find the maintenance manager and find out who that supplier is. And that's a true story that led to the interesting ribbed dimensional stainless in the interiors on the Broncos. Our sun visors come from aerospace because a client was showing me this new cool jet, and I could care less about all the pleather and marble and crap, but I went up to the cockpit and was like, now that's a sun visor. What's up with that? So they had never done land traveling vehicles, but I'm like, they're absolutely perfect. Like, so our visors are the same thing that are in Lear jets and on and on and on. So no, I have I do apparel design and manufacture. I make all my own clothes head to toe. I make most of my own shoes. I make my own hats, all my bags. So I have a little apparel brand that's just sort of free psychotherapy called campfirecoats.com. with all vintage findings and vintage textiles or rare dead stock contemporary textiles. Then I have a leather goods brand called jwardcollection.com. And yeah, I'm designing my own car barn based on an 1852 Dutch canted beam English barn I salvaged out of upstate New York, and designed my friend's car collection, buildings and interiors. Right now, I'm just deep into the subculture of Petrolania or Linea. I'm restoring a 1940s Flying A gas station that was located in a small Central California town called Atascadero. And I'm doing it with zero reproductions as a fully functioning, lived in working station that's sort of theoretically. Our station opened in October 48, so we're restoring it as if it's a moment in time 51, but down to inventory and
Oh,
pumps
nice.
and the ding ding bell when you drive over the airline. Like, oh my God, it's so much fun.
Now, this was not on my list of questions to ask you, but it's just come because you've mentioned so much about design. And I hate to even ask this question. What are your thoughts on the Ferrari Luce?
I don't want to get in trouble because um, Mark and Johnny are icon clients, and I have the highest faith in them. I think it's weird that Johnny's getting blamed for the exterior. My understanding is Johnny was all about the UX and interior, which I think kicks ass.
Right, right.
And then the only feeble defense I would have for Ferrari is, again, I don't think people understand the scale and timeline. And they pressed go on that when it seemed industry critical
Mm,
to
hmm.
not just address the four seat. Hey, look, at least they didn't do a SUV. Oh, wait, they did. Anyway, but
SAV.
yeah, yeah, my bad. But the electric was the future.
Right.
So what are they going to do? Years into development, they're going to throw it in the trash. Now, will I just shut up and answer your question? I think it's hideous. I'd take a Lucid 10 to 1, but honestly, I'm not very pro electric myself. If I had more money than God and a fleet of vehicles, it would make sense to me. But I'm actually more excited, despite, I mean, we do an all-wheel drive transmission transfer caseless EV version of our Bronco that I'm quite proud of. Our first production unit's just getting completed right now. But I honestly feel like electric for me would be more like a slate. So it's utility, it's low cost, boom, boom, run your specific kind of mission and party on. But when I see poor bastards stuck at Charge America or stations, on the way to Vegas or on a road trip, like, no, I would be Mr. Range Anxiety. I'm out.
Well, I do have one last question for you. So, just look in the future, 50 years from now, in a museum, there's the original Toyota FJ next to one of your cars, one of your builds. What would you say? What do you hope the response is?
Honestly, that's like one of my few sort of, how will this brand be remembered? I'm a big fan of biographies and autobiographies of my heroes, from industrialists to Ettore Bugatti. Uh, if when someone sees an icon today or decades in the future, I'll be proudest if they understand the nuance of why the brand exists and what it's engineered to represent.
Hmm.
Then I've done my job. Like, Bugatti lost their ass for decades, but it was still a value because of the single-minded lunacy of the founder, and really caring about those details even during hard times and when it didn't make sense. Like, the Bugatti Royale. It failed miserably. I think, what did he sell? I think,
Six, I think
yeah, was it
six, maybe eight.
six in total?
Yeah.
And he already had ordered all the engines for the rest and had no buyer, and he just about killed his own company. But then he came up with the train and ended up making a ton more of the engines, and that indirectly saved the company and made it viable, like Revolta, like ESO, with the BMW Assetto. They're like, well, we don't like it. I think the money's in motorcycle post-war, but there's this company called BMW I think I can sell it to. And that
Right.
allowed them to do a complete turnaround and focus on building the car that was keeping him up at night.
Yeah, yeah, that's
I love
amazing.
all those like ESOs and Fossil Vegas
I
and
love Fossil
Monteverdis.
Vegas. Yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
missed the boat, man. I could have bought those. I remember when those were in the recycler for like, my wife and I went to look at, in fact, several. They were like 15, 20, 25 grand, and nobody cared.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just
That's one
saw
of my
one of the
favorites.
one that was 25 grand in the exact same condition, just auctioned for 220,000. I'm like, damn it. But us car guys were full of those shoulda, coulda,
Yeah.
woulda moments and stories.
Weekly, weekly.
Totally.
Well, Jonathan, I really appreciate it. Maybe we could do it again because I still have more questions for you. And I appreciate you being on the Collector Car podcast.
No, I appreciate you having me on, and yeah, reach out anytime and come visit next time you're in LA. Come to the shop, give you a
I'll take you up
factory
on that.
tour.
Yeah.